Discover the incredible secret to value yourself, 5 life-changing thoughts revealed. Emma's heart raced as she stood in her cramped kitchen, the smell of brown sugar dancing with vanilla wafting through the air. She was creating magic, even if only in the form of cookies. Memories of her grandmother's laughter of 100 baking sessions filled the room, each confection crafted with love passed down through generations. This wasn't just about cookies, it was about family, resilience, and pride, something every working mother in Maplewood could feel. Yet, doubt curled around her spirit like a vine, whispering reminders of her recent layoff from the factory. She thought of Lily and Jake, their cheeks sticky and their smiles bright, as they placed morsels of chocolate dough onto the baking sheet. They believed in her despite the whispers of the town's wealthier families, who often looked down on people like them. It left a tightness in her chest that was hard to shake. As she stirred the batter, a bitter memory surfaced: the smirks from the Harrison family last week, their dismissive tones ringing in her ears. Homemade? How quaint, they'd laughed, eyeing the cookies as if they feared contamination by their mere presence. Would their mocking words stop her in her tracks? In preparation for the upcoming annual community fair, the event that knitted their small town's fabric together, Emma channeled that anger into determination. She envisioned a showcase where every family could tell their story of struggle, where laughter and tears turned history into community. She began rallying her neighbors at the diner, igniting a spark that felt electric. "We all have something to share," she declared, a fire in her eyes. In that moment, she felt invincible. But life, as it often does, had a twist waiting. Just days before the fair, as Emma attempted to perfect her cookies, disaster struck. The mixer sputtered and died, sending flour clouding through the air like smoke from a battlefield. Heart pounding, she stood in silence, looking at the failure she felt inside. It crushed her spirit, trembling on the edge of despair. Was she truly worthy of this challenge, or was she just chasing a dream meant for others? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the fair looming like a storm on the horizon, Emma felt the weight of the town's judgments. Mounting pressures coiled around her heart, tightening like a noose, as she faced everyone's expectations. Would they still give her a chance after her mishap? As she looked at her children, who seemed to embody hope, she felt a small spark of courage ignite within. The day of the fair arrived, buzzing with excitement and thrill. Emma's heart drummed loudly in her chest. Would the community embrace this new vision of success? She stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined, ready to shatter the stereotype and illuminate their shared journey. Would they see the strength of Maplewood, the beauty and resilience? As she opened her mouth, silence enveloped the crowd, breaths held tight. What would come next? The stakes were high, but hope shimmered like sunlight through the trees. Emma took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the crowd. Faces from every corner of Maplewood stared back, each one echoing stories of hardships and victories that intertwined throughout the years. She suddenly felt connected to them, a tapestry of voices and experiences poised on the cusp of something special. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice quaking slightly. The mixture of fear and excitement swirled in her belly, but she pressed on. "This isn't just about cookies. It's about connecting, sharing, and building a stronger community." A nervous chuckle rippled through the audience, breaking the tension. Someone from the back, old Mr. Thompson, raised his hand. "You mean like your cupcakes, Emma? Those fluffy little miracles can make even the grumpiest souls smile." The crowd erupted in laughter, and suddenly, Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Yes. Exactly like that," she said, her smile radiating warmth. "We all have our cupcakes, don't we? Little things that bring us joy, are stories that bind us together. The crowd leaned in closer, curiosity replacing skepticism. She saw mothers nudging their sons, children clasping arms, and neighbors exchanging glances. It was a moment she had been waiting for, a connection forming like dough rising in the oven. Emma continued, I may not have the fanciest mixer, but every cookie I bake is filled with love. And that love is what makes our stories unique. Just then, a sweet voice chimed from the front row. It was Lily. Mom, can we show them what we made? She held up a batch of misshapen cookies, proudly presenting them like treasures that had been crafted with care. Emma's heart swelled. Of course. This is a great idea, sweetheart. She motioned for her kids to join her at the front. As they began to hand out cookies, each a symbol of their effort, hope, and love, the crowd moved closer. Laughter filled the air as they took bites, eyes sparkling with surprise at the delight hiding in each cookie. See? Emma said. These cookies. They may not look perfect, but they taste like hope. Like second chances. The community began to share their own stories, laughter mingling with nostalgic memories of past fairs, of the trials life threw at them, and how they overcame them together. Yet, just as Emma began to feel a sense of triumph, she spotted the Harrison family on the outskirts of the gathering. Their expressions were a paradox of disdain and intrigue, eyebrows raised. Emma's heart sank. Would they always judge her for her background? Before she could dwell on it, a voice pierced her thoughts. Emma. Can you teach me how to bake like you? A woman from the crowd, a stranger moments before, extended a hand. Emma glanced around. Other hands began to lift, requests turning into a ripple effect of desire for connection and growth. In that pressure cooker of emotions, she realized something profound. The fair wasn't just about proving herself, it was about building something greater, forging bonds that could withstand judgment and misconceptions. As she took a step toward the crowd, ready to embrace this new role, she felt an electric current of enthusiasm spreading through her, drawing others into a circle of connection. Would this be the turning point for her in Maplewood? Just as those thoughts began to settle, a deep, thunderous voice interrupted from behind her. What is going on here? The crowd parted slightly, revealing Mr. Harrison himself, arms crossed. Emma felt her heart drop. Would her moment of triumph and unity be shattered before it even began? The crowd fell into a hush, like a spotlight suddenly shining on Emma's startled face. Mr. Harrison's presence loomed over her, heavy with expectation. His reputation as a businessman and community leader preceded him, and now, trapped beneath his judging gaze, Emma felt small. What's all this? He repeated, his eyes scanning the slightly crumbled cookies in the hands of children, the sweetness of laughter lingering like a shy child in the corner. It's just a moment for sharing, Mr. Harrison. A chance for the community to come together. Emma's voice trembled. She hated how the warmth she had just felt slipped away, replaced by the tension that radiated from him. Sharing? Or is it just some excuse to bake your failures into a festival? He retorted, his tone sharp. Several faces shifted uncomfortably, and Emma sensed an invisible line being drawn, his disapproval pitted against her light. But there was something brave stirring inside her. This was her moment. No, it's about resilience, she spoke up, each word gaining courage, powered by the sudden need to stand tall. These cookies may not be perfect, but each one tells a story. Just like every person here. A murmur rippled through the crowd. They were listening. They remembered their struggles, their imperfect moments that had shaped them into who they were today. But she needed to break the silence that hung thick in the air. Life isn't about perfection. It's about connection, and hope, and finding joy even in the messiness. Emma pressed on, feeling the weight of Mr. Harrison's stare begin to shift, if only slightly. There was a moment when time stood still, everyone holding their breath. Her kids watched with wide eyes, a mixture of admiration and anxiety flickering across their faces. Mr. Harrison's expression softened for the briefest second before his hardened brows furrowed again. And what if someone gets sick from your baking mishaps? His voice was lower now, laced with concern, but Emma could sense the challenge beneath it. What if they don't? She shot back, heart racing. What if they find comfort in something as simple as a cookie? What if we let our children learn that it's okay to take risks, that it's okay to fail? A bold silence settled as the crowd murmured amongst themselves again. Slowly, a few individuals began nodding, emboldened by her words. Old Mr. Thompson raised his hand back. In the end, Emma's cookies are more about heart than ever being perfect. Laughter erupted again, and a few others joined in, defending the spirit of the gathering. Even though Mr. Harrison remained stoic, there was an undeniable resolve in the air, a breath of defiance that Emma had ignited. Emma felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this could start a shift in not just Mr. Harrison's views, but in everyone. A calm broke over the crowd, uniting them in a way Emma had scarcely dared to dream. They began to step closer, hands reaching out to share stories while heartstrings were tugged tighter in connection. But just as she began to feel the swell of togetherness, Mr. Harrison spoke again. Is this just about cookies for you, Emma? Or is it something deeper? Her heart raced as his question hung in the air. Did he mean to challenge her after all? What was she truly hoping for? And could she answer him honestly without unraveling everything she had just built? As the crowd waited for her response, a quiet tension returned, and every eye turned back to her, expecting a revelation. Would she find the words to express her deeper desires? Emma felt a rush of vulnerability wash over her, bloating her heart but making her throat feel tight. The weight of every gaze seemed to pierce through the shield of her brave front. She took a deep breath, grounding herself. It was time to peel back the layers, to let them see what lay beneath. It's more than cookies, Mr. Harrison, she finally replied, her voice stronger now, carrying a mix of honesty and urgency. It's about feeling seen in a world that often overlooks us. It's about allowing ourselves to be imperfect, to make mistakes and learn from them. It's about how we nurture our neighbors, our children, and ourselves. The crowd stirred slightly, the hum of shared understanding growing. Emma could see nods from faces she recognized but had once been so far apart from. Many were mothers, friends, neighbors whose own lives had their share of heartaches. She remembered with a pang how she once felt invisible, lost in her own flaws. I started baking because it made my kids smile, she continued, her heart racing straight toward the truth she had hidden for too long. I wanted to show them that love isn't about perfection. It's about trying, about standing up when you fall down. We're not a perfect family. We're a family that sticks together, even when we screw things up. Laughter bubbled from the crowd, mingling with murmurs of support. Emma could see the tension in Mr. Harrison's shoulders rise and fall, as if he were finally beginning to grasp something intangible. What if we all embraced the messiness of life together? What could we accomplish as a community? She finished, feeling that flicker grow into a flame. The warmth of connection ignited faces around her, lighting up the crowd with anticipation. Mr. Harrison paused, the wind like a breath between them. His demeanor shifted slightly. The rigidity in his posture lessened, replaced by something softer, something searching. But Emma, isn't there a risk? What if embracing these failures ends up hurting us more? We can't ignore the dangers. I'm not saying we should ignore them, she replied swiftly. I'm saying we can learn from them. We can even celebrate them. Every crumbled cookie, every slight mistake, those are life lessons. And we can help each other through those lessons instead of letting them divide us. She took a step closer, daring to lower her voice as if they were sharing a secret. What if we built a world where our flaws connect us rather than keep us apart? The crowd murmured in agreement, and for a moment, Emma thought she saw a hint of something she hadn't expected in Mr. Harrison's thrust-in brows, a glimmer of understanding. You really believe that? You think a cookie can change a heart? His tone had softened, the challenge had become a question. Yes, she said with a smile, the tenderness of hope washing over her. I do. But it starts with us. As the community began to rally together, sharing their stories and vulnerabilities, Emma felt the strangest mix of exhilaration and trepidation. Something was unfolding, a shift, a newfound strength was palpable. But just as laughter filled the air again, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, cutting through the moment. She pulled it out and her heart lurched. An urgent message flashed on the screen, one that threatened to unravel everything they'd just begun to weave together. Emma, we need to talk. It's about the bakery. Her thoughts raced. What could this mean for her community, her dreams, and the fragile moment she had just created? Was it possible that she would have to fight, not just for cookies, but for everything she had begun to believe in? Emma stood frozen, her heart pounding louder than the laughter that had just filled the square. The message on her phone felt heavy in her palm, like an anchor pulling her back into darker waters. She forced herself to breathe, to look up from that small screen. All those faces, their warmth, their connection were slipping away. Emma, is everything okay? A voice broke through her haze. It was Sarah, her old friend, wearing a worried expression. You look like you've seen a ghost. I just got this message. It's about the bakery, she faltered, her voice nearly cracking. The bakery was her sanctuary, the one place where all her dreams felt tangible. And now, it felt like someone was threatening to take that away. What do they mean? Is something wrong? Sarah's eyes reflected concern mixed with curiosity. I don't know, Emma admitted, her stomach twisting. But if it's about the bakery, it could change everything. I just started to connect with everyone. I thought we were building something together. Sarah moved closer, placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. Look, why don't we read it together? Maybe it's not as bad as it seems. With trembling fingers, Emma opened the message fully. A wave of nausea washed over her as she read it out loud. They want to review our permits. They think we're a risk to the neighborhood. Too many people, too much noise. The murmurs of the crowd started to fade, replaced by the pounding of her own heartbeat in her ears. It felt like someone had dropped a heavy stone into the flickering flame of hope she had ignited moments ago. But we're just baking cookies, Sarah said, disbelief coloring her tone. Yeah, but they don't see the community we're creating, Emma replied, frustration taking root in her voice. They don't see the love behind each batch or the bonds forming over flour and sugar. They just see rules. Maybe we can explain. Show them what this really means, what it means to all of us. Within Sarah's eyes ignited a spark of determination. Emma pondered that for a moment, her mind racing. What if they did come together as a community? What if they turned this threat into an opportunity? We could organize a community bake-off, she suggested, trembling with the potential of the idea. Invite everyone, tell our stories. Show them we're more than a bakery. That's a great idea. Sarah beamed. And we can share our mess-ups too. It would show everyone we're real. No one's perfect. A small laugh broke through Emma's anxiety. Perfectly imperfect, I like that. Suddenly, the weight on her shoulders began to lift, replaced slowly by a steadiness. She wasn't alone in this fight. Their voices could be stronger together, woven like strands in a quilt. Let us tell them, Emma said, feeling the warmth of hope flooding back. Yes, let us stand together. They truly can't stop what they can't understand. As she looked at the attentive faces around her, Emma felt the community stir. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the passion, the laughter, and the shared stories that made the bakery feel like home. Just then, Mr. Harrison stepped forward, his brow furrowed in thought. I'm in, he said, surprising them both. If you think it helps, count on my support. We can make sure they see what this place really means. Emma's heart soared, filled with renewed determination. But as she began to see the path ahead, she remembered the urgency of the message still looming in her pocket. What would they do when they finally faced the authorities? Would they truly rally together? As hope intertwined with trepidation, one question loomed larger than the others: could they really change hearts and minds? Emma felt a tingle of excitement travel through her as the idea of a community bake-off settled in her mind. But the weight of the upcoming challenge loomed just as heavily. The authorities weren't just going to back down because people loved cookies. She had to prepare. "Okay, then," Emma said, her voice stronger now. "Let us make a plan. We'll need to organize everything and get the word out. This will take teamwork." "Absolutely. I'll talk to the neighbors," Sarah suggested. "Everyone deserves to voice why this bakery matters. We can share our stories, our memories. It'll show how intertwined we are." A melody of chatter began to swirl around them as others caught wind of their idea. Faces lit up, and hearts raced with anticipation. Emma felt the flicker of hope bloom again, vibrant and alive. But there was another feeling creeping into doubt. She knew all too well how difficult it could be to change minds, especially when rules and regulations cast long shadows. As groups began to form and discussions ignited, Emma's thoughts turned inward. Why had she chosen to start the bakery? Was it just for the cookies? No. It was about belonging, about creating a home where everyone was welcome. "Emma?" A voice broke through her reverie. It was Theo, a quiet artist who had often shared his sketches over coffee in her bakery. "Could I help with the decorations for the bake-off? I want to capture what it feels like to be here." "Of course, Theo." She smiled, feeling a warmth blossom within. "What you create will show the soul of this place." He nodded, enthusiasm shifting his shy demeanor into something brighter. Suddenly, everyone started to find their roles. Janet from across the street offered her help with social media marketing. Mr. Harrison suggested reaching out to the local newspaper. A current of energy threaded through the square, merging voices and laughter into a hopeful buzz. The bake-off didn't just become a gathering, it transformed into a declaration of their shared identity and connection. Emma marveled at how something that began as a threat was morphing into a community rallying cry. But amidst the excitement, Emma couldn't shake the unease curling in her stomach. This adventure didn't come without risks. What if it backfired? What if the authorities were unflinching? As evening approached, Emma stepped away from the crowd momentarily, seeking the quiet of a nearby park bench. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool air brush against her cheeks. Could this really be enough? She pulled out her phone again and stared at the ominous message that set it all into motion. Maybe they would all stand together, but she couldn't ignore the underlying tension. What would happen when the day of the bake-off arrived? Would it be the moment they'd been waiting for, or would it just bring forth the storm they feared? With her heart pounding, Emma could only think, what if the very officials she hoped to sway were watching all of this unfold, waiting to strike? The weight of the challenge was heavier than before, but the flicker of hope fought back fiercely. Emma knew this was their chance to be heard. But as she stood to return to her friends, she couldn't shake the thought: if the bake-off didn't succeed, what would it mean for her bakery, and for them all? The next morning, the sunlight poured through Emma's window like a golden promise. She woke up determined to face the day, but the weight of uncertainty still hung heavily in the air. As she brewed her morning coffee, every sip felt like a heartbeat, reminding her of the ticking clock leading up to the bake-off. She headed straight to the bakery, where the smell of freshly baked bread welcomed her. The familiar warmth of the oven soothed her nerves, and she began preparing different doughs for the event. Memories of laughter, friends, and countless baked goods flooded her mind. Each item she crafted was a little love note to her community. Later that morning, Sarah arrived, her energy bubbling over. "I can't wait to see everyone today. It feels like a festival," she exclaimed, her eyes shining. "You think so?" Emma asked, her voice laced with hesitance. "Definitely. The more the merrier. Look, even Theo is here." Sarah pointed to the artist, who was already sketching ideas on a large pad. "Hey, Theo. How's it coming? Emma asked, half hopeful, half anxious. I'm capturing the spirit. The joy, the connection. I want people to see it, he said, presenting a rough sketch with a small crowd gathered around a large table of baked goods. Emma smiled. For a moment, it lifted her spirit, even as the tension churned in her stomach. They spent the morning bustling around the bakery, decorating and organizing. Walter, an elderly man from the community, joined them, proudly stirring a massive pot of strawberry jam. This is the secret weapon, he said, winking. Nothing beats fresh jam on warm cookies. As they celebrated the little things, Emma's heart swelled with pride. The bake-off wasn't just about the pastries, it was about connecting threads of lives woven together in a tapestry of memories. They were there for each other and for something bigger. But then, as the clock struck 4 in the afternoon, a hush fell over the group. The air thickened with tension when a black SUV pulled up outside the bakery. Emma's heart sank like a stone. She felt the palpable shift in energy. Uncertainty and fear rippled through her friends. Is that? Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Emma nodded, fear curling in her chest as the familiar faces of local officials stepped out. This was the moment they all dreaded, yet secretly anticipated. They were about to face their greatest challenge. As the officials approached, the crowd began to swell, a curious mix of excitement and apprehension. Emma could see the unease in her friends' faces, but she knew she had to stay strong. She stepped forward, ready to speak. Everyone is here, not just for cookies but for community. She called out, her voice shaking but powerful. But one official raised their hand, cutting through the murmurs. We need to discuss why this gathering is happening. Some in the crowd exchanged worried glances, while others held their ground beside Emma, their resolve forming an unspoken bond. She exhaled slowly, mustering all her courage. We just want a chance to show what this bakery truly means, not just to us, but to everyone who has walked these streets. Now everyone was watching, waiting to see how this would play out. Emma's heart raced. Would she find the words that could sway them? Would the community's love be enough? As the first official began to respond, Emma could feel her breath catching and she couldn't help but wonder what if today didn't turn out the way she hoped. The first official cleared his throat, creating a silence that seemed to stretch. Thank you for your enthusiasm, Emma. But we need to remind you that gatherings of this size require permits. There's been some concern about safety regulations. Emma's heart thudded painfully in her chest. That was it? Safety regulations? She glanced at the crowd, their expressions a mixture of confusion and worry. Could they really shut down the bake-off over a piece of paper? Safety? Sarah echoed incredulously. This is a community event, not some wild party. Exactly. Emma chimed in, her voice growing stronger as she felt the support of those around her. This is about coming together. It's about love and support, and showing what we can accomplish when we join forces. The officials seemed unmoved, their expressions stern. Yet, amid the growing tension, she noticed Theo pushing through the crowd with his sketchbook. He stepped beside her, eyes bright with determination. Look, I'm painting a picture of what this bakery stands for. You can't measure community with laws and regulations. It's more than that, it's heart. Articulate. Emma exclaimed, her voice suddenly emboldened by Theo's presence. We are the heart. This bakery is a symbol of everything we love about this town. A murmur rippled through the onlookers, some nodding in agreement. Emma felt a flicker of hope, but one official raised an eyebrow. And how do you plan to ensure everyone's safety during this symbol of community? Emma's mind raced, searching for a solution. She glanced at Walter, who had put down his spoon and stepped forward, face flushed with passion. We can arrange volunteers for crowd control. We have an incredible community, everyone's willing to help keep things safe. We'll make sure every detail is covered, Sarah added, determination in her voice. We can create a seating arrangement, establish a flow, even have friendly security. This is our chance to show you the strength of our togetherness. The officials exchanged glances, but their faces were still hard to read. The crowd quietly rallied behind Emma and her friends. Please, Emma begged, let us show you what we're capable of together. This bake-off is more than sugar and flour, it's about building our future. Think of the joy it can create, how it can uplift everyone. Silence enveloped the street, thick with anticipation. Emma could feel the weight of her friend's support like a warm blanket, urging her on. She could just taste the hope, sweet like freshly baked bread. Fine, the first official finally said, breaking the tension. We will allow the event to proceed under certain conditions. Emma's breath caught. Conditions? The community held its breath. What would they have to sacrifice for their beloved bake-off? As the official continued, Emma's eyes flickered toward Sarah and Theo, who shared a look of nervous hope. Together, they needed to navigate whatever hoops the officials would set up. They had come too far to let anything derail this. But would those conditions draw them together or pull them apart? The crowd waited, tension crackling in the air like an approaching storm. Emma's heart raced. What would the official say next? Would their united front be enough to secure a future for their community celebration? Emma could barely remember to breathe as the official leaned into the crowd, his voice steady but firm. First, we need a designated safety plan. You will have to submit a layout of the venue, parking arrangements, and emergency protocols. Secondly, we will require a temporary event insurance policy. The weight of his words settled heavily on Emma's shoulders. She exchanged glances with Sarah and Walter, the worry swept over them like a cold wave. This felt overwhelming. How could they possibly organize all of this in such a short time? Theo stepped closer, his gaze blazing with determination. We can handle this, Emma. We just need to rally together. This community has done impossible things before. This is just one more challenge. Emma nodded, his belief igniting something within her. Right. If we divide the tasks, we can manage it all. We have to show them that this bake-off is not just a day, but a lifeline for our community. Who will join us? Before she could finish, hands shot up in the air. Faces lit with hope, glimmering in the afternoon sun. Neighbors, local business owners, kids with their parents. The enthusiasm was palpable. I can help with the layout. Called out Mrs. Jensen, the sweet lady who always brought her famous apple pie to every event. I'll handle the insurance details. Jerry, the lawyer from down the street, yelled back, his voice clear and confident. Count me in for crowd control. Someone else shouted, and a wave of agreement rolled through the crowd, a chorus of voices merging into one. Emma felt a surge of energy. The bakery meant so much to them all, and now it was a beacon of hope. See? We are all in this together. This isn't just for the bake-off, it's for our future. As thoughts swirled and excitement built, they formed small groups, each tackling their individual tasks. Emma grabbed a notepad, starting to jot down ideas as the energy in the air shifted, mirroring her determination. With Theo closely by her side sketching the event layout, she felt lighter. Every inch of their town represented a piece of their lives, a shared history of laughter, love, and resilience. By sunset, the colors streaked across the sky like their hopes. While Emma's fingers felt sore from writing, her heart felt lighter, filled to the brim with gratitude and connection. They did it. They'd come together, united. But just as they were about to wrap up, a shadow passed over Emma, and she turned to see the first official observing them with crossed arms. A tight knot formed in her stomach. While it's commendable you're taking action, there's still the matter of permit approval. Emma held her breath. Had they done enough? Would they be forced to dismantle their plans? The clock seemed to tick louder. What if doing everything they could still wasn't enough to realize their goal? And as she looked into the crowd of hopeful faces, a thought gnawed at her. Were they dreaming too big? What if their efforts crumbled before they even had a chance to taste victory? Emma's resolve tightened, feeling their eyes on her. She had to fight, not just for the bake-off, but for everything it represented. "Let us hear what the official has to say," she whispered, feeling anxiety ripple through her, the night darkening around them. But deep down, she knew this battle was far from over. What would be the next hurdle they would face? The crowd stood together, a wall of camaraderie against the encroaching shadows of doubt. Emma could feel the pulse of hope radiating around her, the laughter and determination echoing the very essence of what she had envisioned for the bake-off. The air was thick with anticipation as the official finally broke the silence. "However, for the event to occur," he continued, his tone slightly softened, "you will need a set of volunteers to manage safety protocols and the layout of the venue. We cannot allow any incidents to occur, or we will be obliged to close it down." Emma's heart raced as he laid the conditions before them. She exchanged an anxious glance with Sarah, who nodded with encouragement. "We can do it," Sarah whispered, her earlier excitement reignited. "Okay," Emma said, attempting to mask the tremor in her voice. "We will gather a team. We're determined to show you how much this means to us." The official nodded, a hint of approval brightening his expression. "I see the passion in your community. Just remember, I will be keeping a close eye on things. Make sure to keep everything organized." As he walked away, Emma felt like a weight had lifted slightly, but certainty still lingered on her shoulders. There was no time for defeat now. "All right, let us get to work," Emma called, rallying her neighbors, her friends, igniting a fire within them. They all jumped into action like excited children on Christmas morning. People began forming teams, some discussing the layout with Theo while others volunteered to collect insurance paperwork with Jerry leading the charge. The next week was a whirlwind. Morning blended into night. Emma watched as the community flourished, bustling for the bake-off like flowers blooming in springtime. Walter had created a baked goods safety superstar team, Sarah coordinated efforts with local schools to invite families, while Theo painted vibrant signs capturing the essence of what was to come. But as the days passed and the bake-off drew closer, Emma felt the ghosts of doubt creeping back in. What if they failed? What if the permits didn't get approved? She chastised herself for those worries, trying to channel the fire that had driven her already. On the morning of the bake-off, Emma woke up early, ready to bake her heart out. The sun peeked through the blinds, illuminating the kitchen like a warm embrace. For the first time in a while, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. As the clock ticked down and the first few families arrived, Emma noticed the buzz in the air, excitement radiated among the crowd. Laughter erupted as kids dashed around, and they began setting up tables adorned with colorful tablecloths and ribbons. "This looks amazing," Sarah exclaimed, beaming as she handed out warm cookies straight from the oven. "Everyone's come together so beautifully," Emma replied, her heart swelled with pride. It was more than perfect cookies, it was inspiration, resilience, and unity. But just as everything began to settle in, a figure emerged on the edge of the crowd. It was Mr. Harrison, looking stern with arms crossed, observing the vibrancy around him. Emma felt her pulse quicken, she knew he carried the power to ignite doubts. Yet today, that doubt was muted by the warmth surrounding her. Leading from her heart, she stepped forward, determination pushing her to face him. "Mr. Harrison," she said, smiling warmly despite the tension, "thank you for coming. I hope you see just how much this event means to everyone." He looked around, taking in the laughter, the long tables adorned with baked goods, and families mingling. A spark of something she hadn't seen dawned in his eyes, curiosity perhaps. "I see it," he said carefully, "but are you sure this is a good idea?" "It's a perfect idea," she held his gaze. "These are real connections. This is more than baking, it's about building a community that lifts each other up." The crowd began to gather around them, curiosity piqued, and Emma could feel the momentum swelling. Mr. Harrison hesitated, the storm in his heart seemingly wavering. Maybe you're right. It's about people, after all." With that statement, Emma's heart soared. The bake-off wasn't just about cookies. It was a radiant tapestry of everything they had struggled and strived for, woven in moments filled with laughter, connection, and vulnerability. Moments later, she shared the mic with Theo and announced, "Welcome, everyone. Today we gather not just for cookies but to celebrate our stories, our strength. Enjoy, share, and let us make memories to last." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause erupted, washing over her like sunshine breaking through clouds. She looked around and saw faces lit with warmth, smiles full of realization, and eyes reflecting something profound: acceptance. As the baking agreed, laughter and chatter blended harmoniously. Emma knew in her heart this was just the beginning. They faced challenges together, and they began forging something real and lasting. And as the day faded into night with joy and laughter echoing in the wind, Emma felt ready. Ready for whatever awaited them on the horizon. Because together, they were unstoppable. And as you dive into this inspiring journey, now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next incredible stories that await you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow our community. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this transformative journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to find this kind of inspiration. Only true fans understand how critical it is to support our channel through these actions. Let us keep this magic alive together.